meets weighing us down.
Yeah.
So
What is that?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's
Okay.
hard 'cause I don't want to get up at 5 or 4:30 on a Saturday, and it ruins the
So,
whole week.
good evening, everybody. We're actually live now, live streaming on YouTube. To all those watching at home and for everyone here, please bear with us. This is kind of a first EDA meeting, so we haven't really kind of established roles, responsibilities yet. So this is treat this more like a work session to get us up and running, and then hopefully by the next meeting we'll be able to run it like Robert's Rules of Order is kind of going down the specific agenda items. Tonight I do have a presentation for you all to kind of get us started through this work session and get us established as a board, because we have some important meetings coming up here in January, February, March timeframe related to the large downtown development projects that you guys are going to play a pivotal role in. So you're kind of starting and jumping right into a huge undertaking for the city's future. So you probably have the slides in front of you as well, but I have it up on the screen as well for everyone to watch at home and for you all to reference as well. But what I hope to go over tonight, of course, we'll start off with introductions, kind of going around the table, and I'll introduce different staff members as well who will be supporting this board going forward. We'll try to establish roles and responsibilities for the board going forward. I'll give you a brief overview of what your role is going to be related to the downtown, your initial role that is, because there can be expanded roles going forward, but what the kind of first steps are to even allow the downtown to happen, right? It's really going to be, the governing body has taken a lot of steps already, and the last piece is really going to come down to you all, at least for phase 3, to make happen for the downtown. And then, so I'll briefly go over that and kind of a rough timeline of what's happening with that. And then we're going to want to establish a regular meeting schedule for this board. How often do we want to meet? What nights will work better, times, things like that. Then establish priority areas of focus. I'll go over kind of what's on the bylaws right now, and then also what else can be done as well. And then any other discussion points that you all may want to have, or any questions you may have as well. So to start things off properly, we'll do an introduction here. So from city staff, I'm your city manager. I'll be the primary staffing person for this board, and you see that in the bylaws and the kind of the structure of the meetings that usually ends kind of like with the city manager report as well, just like the governing body meeting. Our city attorney's running a little bit behind, but he will be joining us here within the next 5 or 10 minutes. Mr. Dean Crowhurst, he's going to play a critical function here, just like for the governing body, because a lot of the things that you all do require a few legal steps. So between himself and also our bond counsel, you will be getting actual legal counseling as well. And then our city clerk, Lana Connor, is back there. The clerk for the city and and also city historian, right? She knows everything that's been happening. And then we have a couple assistants, Chris Himes, our admin, who's really kind of my main assistant for economic development as well. So if I'm unable to ever make it, Chris will step in for this meeting to kind of play the staffing lead for that. We don't have an official economic development department. The city used to have at one position, an economic development coordinator. That employee left about a week before I arrived and took this job on, and then we didn't backfill it because we utilized that money first for consulting support for market analytics, because we didn't really have market analytics to tell us what we could actually do here. So we did that along with concept planning, and then by the time we were ready to say, okay, now we can hire an economic development position, other priorities, especially in the finance department, popped up. So we haven't hired that position. So we really kind of take that on as an office of the city manager function. And really the lead should be in this office anyways. So I guess we'll go around the table and please introduce yourselves. If you can give everyone else kind of a background of who you are, why you're interested in this position. And again, congratulations and thank you so much for stepping up. So we'll start down there.
Yeah, Len Tabachi. I've been a resident of Manassas Park since 1994. Served on the economic development, originally the industrial development at the IDA.
If you don't mind speaking closer to the mic as well so people can hear you. Sorry.
Originally served on the IDA, and it became the EDA. The whole thing went sort of quiet for many years, and I've been holding on to the Treasury role, even though I wasn't officially commissioned. My commission, I guess, expired. but I held on to my name was the only one left on the bank account, and I didn't want that to, get lost. So I held on to the account, and I'm willing to turn that role over to someone else to be the treasurer. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for hanging on for the city while we didn't have that going.
Hello, my name is Michael Jones, resident of Manassas Park since 1999. My daughter went to school here, and I am a business owner, and I'm interested in just seeing the city really grow and develop. And I was here during some of the earlier projects, and I just like to see the city do well.
Great. Thank you very much for joining. Mark.
Thank you. Well, hello everyone. My name is Mark Botros. I am a 12-year resident of Manassas Park. My wife and I have two daughters. They are actually not in the school system. They're actually homeschooled. But during the day, I actually work as a senior manager for a think tank in Reston. And by night, I do things like this now. But my interest here is again, like you, Michael, as a resident, just want to see the city do well. We've lived here for 12 years, and we plan on living here for a long time to come. And I personally would love to see the city, realize its potential, economically speaking, and also see not just that, but also see our city really live up to its mission, vision, and values of being an optimal place in the Northern Virginia area to live.
Thank you.
My name is Laura Odell. I've been a resident of Manassas Park on and off for about 12 to 15 years. And my professional background is I've spent about 15 or more years in land use and development working mostly for local government. I'm currently an employee of Fairfax County, and I do reviews of big incoming projects that aren't allowed by right. So we work with the boards to review everything and get them ready for hearing for their votes on those projects. I just wanted to get involved, and I really want to see this project succeed, and I think it's a great opportunity for the city.
Great. Well, thank you all. And Dean, maybe if you want to introduce yourself as well to the group.
Hi, I'm Dean Crowhurst. Lynn.
Hey, Dean.
I'm the city attorney. I've represented the EDA before in the past when it was active. It's up to you whether or not you want me to or not. The governing body has allowed it, so there shouldn't be any conflict. I also represent various other public bodies for the city. I provided legal advice for staff and the bodies. I do not do prosecution work, and I do not do litigation work, so I'm strictly just in-house attorney, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Now, one real quick thing. So you guys have all done your FOIA and COIA training, or you will do it within 2 months okay, great. If you have any questions on that, talk to me. The big thing that I always like to emphasize on FOIA is don't put anything in an email that you don't want to see on the front page of the paper, because it's all public documents. Okay, so unless it's privileged, and if I'm sending you privileged information, everything I send is privileged, so don't share it unless you get prior authorization. But if it's really, really sensitive, I'll put like confidential, privilege all over it and stuff. Very rarely will we do anything like that. And then occasionally you might need to go into a closed meeting, and I'll also kind of help you through that as well. But everything else has to be public. One big thing, okay, there's 4 of you right now, total of 5, eventually there'll be 7. Don't ever get together more than 2 of you at any one given time and talk about anything related to the city unless it's been advertised. And Lana is usually the person to do that. Your secretary, whoever that's going to be, you should be the person to kind of take care of that. So that's kind of my quick intro.
Great. Thank you very much, Dean. Moving on to the next slide. This is kind of your first step as a group, and the next slide will go over a little bit more description of what these roles are. But you do have bylaws, and I believe, Chris, you provided them a hard copy and digital copy already. So take a look at that, read it over, the digital copy. Feel free to kind of see what kind of changes you'd like to make to the bylaws. That's something we can discuss over the next few months as well. If you like it the way it is, we can stick with that as well. But so again, 4-person quorum is required for the EDA to meet. We've met that today. The key positions that need to be selected are the chairman, the vice chairman, the secretary treasurer, or combined secretary treasurer. And the next slide actually goes over, I just pulled these directly from the bylaws. But really you all understand what the chairman generally does in boards, and the vice chairman filling in for the chairman when not there. But you can see the responsibilities of the chairman laid out there, and that's the person who's really going to help kind of craft the agenda and actually run the meeting next time, like a standard meeting with all the different agenda items, the calling to order, putting things up for votes, et cetera. And I believe they will have to vote tonight. Is that right, Dean, for selecting each of these positions? Okay, so you will actually have to do formal votes as well for selecting these positions. The secretary and the treasurer can be city staff as well. So if unless one of you want to take those responsibilities on, you can do that as well. But if not, city staff can support. So Lana Connor, our city clerk, can help you out with the secretary functions, assuming we pick good nights to meet. We have to respect her time as well. Yeah.
Hey, real quick, I think the officers only are good until the end of next June, right? Okay. So even though you're meeting here in December, every June or every July 1st, I guess, you'll have to elect someone new. I think that's what your bylaws say.
Okay. And then likewise, the treasurer, it can be someone on as well, but you can assign that to someone on staff. So I can make the city CFO the treasurer if that would be your all's preference. And I believe, Dean, you would recommend that if we end up acquiring land for the EDA as well.
Right. I know Lynn's been the treasurer for a while, and there's not a lot to do. It's just every once a year you have to file a letter with the auditor of public accounts. But and that's only because we have a bank account. But eventually, if you guys do loan money, you're probably going to have a little small fee that'll go towards your bank account, which is what happened before, and eventually that'll build up to a point where you might be able to do economic development, or if you decide to develop some land in the city, you can use that for advertising and stuff. So it's a good idea. At one time, the city's IDA had a pretty substantial amount of money, and it ended up donating it to the Florida Small Business Center as a startup money. So those are things you can do with those funds. But the treasurer just makes sure that we're kind of keeping in line with state law.
So really the first action item that we'd be looking for you all to take on this evening is to vote on who these members or who will fill these roles for the EDA. So at this point, I would turn it over to you all, see if you have any questions or if anyone wants to make any nominations or volunteer for any of these positions.
Are we missing one person?
We're missing right now. We have 5 members total. One person was not able to make it this evening. We also have another resume that we're hoping to bring forward to the governing body to try to keep expanding the numbers. If you all know of other residents who may be interested, and I know particularly the governing body would like to recruit people from the western side of the city as well to make sure we have representation. But if you know of other members as well willing to join, we can get up to 7 members, which is always better to help. If we know 1 or 2 people can't make the meetings, just to make sure we have quorum. And going forward, Dean, are they also able to do go-to-meeting during the pandemic as well?
Yeah, you'll have to go ahead and adopt a resolution, but I think you have to adopt a resolution. I can't remember, but there's various ways you can meet remotely. So the one we're under right now is the state budget law. Believe it or not, it kind of allows us for COVID. There are certain requirements that have to be met. The mayor, if you stick around for the meeting tonight, she always reads those requirements up front so that we can meet them. But yeah, you should be okay as long as there's a state of emergency declared by the governor for this COVID. After that, you're going to want to adopt a resolution that allows for up to 2 personal reasons a year for someone to do it. And then there's obviously medical reasons that are separate from that. So we can talk about that later. But for right now, you can do remote. None of you have to actually be here. You can do remote for the governor's guidance.
And we could talk, there's a later slide talking about meeting schedules, so maybe we can make the decision of how we want to proceed with meetings going forward, if we want to do a mix, or everyone could just kind of state their preference of what they'd like to do. The governing body does a mix. Usually the mayor's here with 1 or 2 extra council members, but that's by their choice. And then the other 4 members are usually calling in via GoToMeeting. But technically, all 7 of them could be right now doing virtually. The mayor just prefers to be physically located here, but that's not an obligation. So any other questions or any, I guess, volunteers for chairman, I guess, to start off with that?
Does anyone have any desire?
You're sitting in the mayor's chair there, Mark, so. You picked the right chair there.
Well, I'll volunteer
Okay.
for the chairman
I
position.
second.
Okay. Any discussion? Yeah.
I
let's-
second it.
yeah. Okay. Well, actually, Dean, so Mark volunteered, but does someone have to make the motion? Okay. So someone has to make the motion.
To
Make Mark.
Mark the chairman.
I
Nominate
second.
Mark as the chairman of the EDA.
Okay.
I second.
And I guess, Mark, you can call for a vote.
Okay, vote on the motion?
4.
Aye.
Aye.
Mark.
No, I abstain, so it's carried.
Okay. And then, I guess, any volunteers for the vice chairman?
I'll do it if
I was
no.
gonna say, you don't do much.
Second, Mark.
I'll volunteer for vice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we would need then the motion and a second?
I'll nominate Laura Odell for the position of vice chairman of the EDA.
Any
I'll
seconds?
second.
Okay.
Okay, let's put it to a vote. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
The motion is carried.
And then for the secretary and the treasurer, is that something you'd all like to volunteer for, or would you like to assign that to staff?
I suggest staff.
I suggest that.
I also,
So do they need to vote on that, Dean? Okay.
Well, does staff agree to do it? I mean,
Well, Lana, I asked Lana before she felt comfortable, as long as the meeting dates and times worked with her schedule. And then does the treasurer have to be at the meetings as well, or just for certain occasions?
well, it's a good idea to be at the meeting.
Okay.
I mean, you're gonna be in all of them.
I'm gonna be in all of them.
Probably there's not a.
Yeah, so I would probably have my CFO fulfill that, but I would be at the meetings representing, so. But I guess they would have to still name her as okay, so I guess the first vote or nomination or motion would be to appoint Lana Connor as the secretary of the EDA, and then there would have to be a second and then a vote for that. Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to have Lana Connor as the secretary of the EDA.
I second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Carried.
And for the treasurer, her name is Pan Yusuf. He's being voluntold.
On you.
Even knows doing it.
I'll tell her. I'll help her out, though. I mean, we'll make this happen. But she's the expert treasurer, so I'd want her guidance
I
anyways.
think she did this before.
Yeah. I think for the CDA, right?
Yeah, I think she was CDA and maybe even the EDA if you're back.
No, nobody ever did it but me the whole time.
It was just been you the whole
That's
time. We'll get you some help this time.
Oh, just by the way, the account does have $2,848.80 in
All
it.
right.
When I took it over way back when, it was $2,832, so we made $14 in interest over the past
Way to go, Lon.
time. No, it was costing us money because the bank we were in prior was charging us all kinds of fees, and it was bleeding us. So we brought it over here to the bank right over here on the corner, which also financed all this stuff. So they're very friendly. And that was as of, the only report I got is I thought I had them from 2014 also, but this is 2016. So I'm just looking to turn this over.
All right.
So I move to nominate,
The name again?
Pan Yusuf.
Pan Yusuf.
as the treasurer for the Economic Development Authority.
I second the motion. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay. So then,
Pan Youssef.
so we'll then coordinate, Lynn, with you and Pon. I'm guessing the account is, you're listed as the representative, so we'll have to change that over.
Sign on the account
Yeah.
right now. That's why I've been hanging on to it all this time.
Okay, all right, so we'll sign those over to
So,
staff.
I think just a trip over there just to get my name off and get her name on.
Okay,
Her or him?
her, yeah. Her.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. Initial role in downtown development. So probably for the meeting in January or February, if we do meet, which I would recommend that we do, I can give you a more overarching kind of overview of what's happening with the downtown. Tonight, we really just want to get this group established roles and responsibilities, but I do want to make you aware of your role essentially in the downtown development. And then at the next meeting, if you're interested, I can give you an overview of what's happening with the downtown and kind of some of the history behind it as well. But as part of the what's called Phase 3 downtown development, which is located where we're sitting tonight, and pretty much everything on this side of Manassas Drive that's being redeveloped to include a new city hall and other components. It's a public-private partnership that's allowed through Virginia state law. So the developer and the city have entered into a public-private partnership comprehensive development agreement where the developer is going to develop mixed-use commercial, residential, and public components as part of one development projects. Initially, there was the discussions of issuing either a certificate of participation, which is one type of financing, or a lease revenue bond. The certificate of participation doesn't require the EDA. The preferred route in Virginia is the lease revenue bond. And what that is the EDA issues a bond to a financial trustee. That financial trustee, then the developer is able to draw those funds and construct the public components, the improvements, which is the city hall being the biggest one, the brand new city hall, which will be across the street from here, closer to Manassas Drive. A public plaza that will own, actually two plazas, one in front of a proposed future theater, and then right across the street from that, the one in front of City Hall, which will have a splash pad. The one in the theater is proposed to have a little like concert stage thing, and then the one in front of City Hall would have a splash pad. A structured parking, that's part of the VRE garage, it'd be the basement level, would actually be owned by the city. And then surface parking, a few roads, and then all the the related utilities associated with that, the lighting, the underground utilities, stormwater, which is always one of the most expensive categories for most development projects. But those are the public components that developers going to leverage through their economies of scale of the grand development to go ahead and finance. And we're getting a discount for those public improvements as part of the overall transaction. But for them to do so, again, just like they're securing their own financing for their component of the development, as most developers do, right? For the public component, you all are able to issue the lease revenue bonds, which are tax exempt, right? So there's financial benefit towards doing that. The bond itself is supported by two elements, really, right? So the lease purchase agreement that the city is going to enter into. So we'll be making annual lease to own payments like we do for our fleet vehicles and other components in the city. So that if we fulfill the obligations of the lease, which is we pay our rent for 30 years, at the end of the 30 years, we take full ownership of it. The collateral for this whole development, of course, would be the city hall. Yes.
Of just City Hall or the whole development? The 30-year payment?
The 30-year period is for all the public improvements are part of that lease revenue bond.
Okay.
Yeah, but we're paying, but to answer your question, that's not structured, but it's the city hall that's being called out as collateral. So if we don't make the payments, we lose the city hall, right? And the lease purchase agreement has not been finalized, but you're right, it certainly could add some of those other components as well to that. But the only one that's been called out so far in the different documents has been the actual city hall as collateral, that if we don't make the payments. And so the governing body has the option to not appropriate funds for these lease payments. However, doing so would create, just like if you ever default on any of your rent or anything else. Not a good thing from a credit standpoint. We have a lot of leases. We lease for our social services. We do lease purchase for most of our vehicles. So defaulting on any of those really takes a hit on your credit. So the staff's recommendation is we never default on any of our leases or any contractual obligations, but that legal right exists for worst case situations. But the City Hall building right now is collateral, and to your point, the other components may be added when we actually go out to issue the financing as well, the other public improvements. But for the other public improvements, besides, I guess, the parking, there's not really a monetary value from some of the other ones, except if they're associated with the building itself for the parking for that building, if they want to then go ahead and rent it out to a private actor for City Hall. But the goal is we won't have to do that, because if you look at the financing or the whole financial picture of the downtown, as you can see from, I thought I put it up here. I may not have done that. It's profit after payment of this 30-year lease, $88 million. So we're making a lot of money out of this development as a city in tax revenue purposes. So that's after making these payments.
From the new development portion?
From the development, yeah.
Portion?
Correct. And that's not counting B-poll, meals tax, or sales tax. I wanted to be very conservative and just look at real estate tax values and personal property tax values. So just from those components, we're already generating a profit between these developments. If we get sales tax, once we get businesses in here, they also pay meals tax, sales tax, and B-poll, which just then adds money, which then helps us, the governing body, achieve their objectives, such as the tax cuts and other things that residents are demanding of us.
Sorry, B-poll?
B-poll is a business license tax, a business, what is the whole occupation license?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
so every business needs a license to operate in the city, and they pay a tax every year based off their gross receipts of that year. Yeah. So that's kind of the quick sum of the project, and your role is to issue those lease revenue bonds. The certificate of participation is more common in the Northeast, but in Virginia, the lease revenue bonds are more common. So there's a lower interest rate to be gained by pursuing that route, which is why getting the EDA established was critical for the city to be able to do something like that and save taxpayer money. So even grow that profit even bigger to do more things for our community. I think I described that pretty well. So timeline, we're still finalizing the City Hall and infrastructure budget. Right now, I put $27 million. That's the kind of the latest number. In January, I'm bringing that budget back to the governing body for kind of final approval, but we're probably going to start some of the background financial stuff with our the city financial advisor. They're a company named Davenport, and our bond counsel, who is McGuire Woods. They're going to probably start the whole process. They brought on a couple of financial trustees to kind of one's a principal and one's kind of a secondary, and our financial advisor will be able to better explain this to you all. But essentially, if one can't generate the rate that we're looking for, then we can rely on that backup as well if they can deliver a better rate for the deal. But all that can kind of start working in the background, but they're going to have at least 2 meetings with you all, myself and our financial advisors, and maybe even the developer, either 2 meetings in January, sometime between the timeframe of January through March. First meeting is to provide you the full explanation of the financial instrument and answer any of your questions about what's going to be happening. And then the second meeting would be to adopt an authorizing resolution to enable the lease revenue bonds to be issued. So those are kind of the critical steps that need to be done within Q1 of next fiscal year, because their goal is they wanted to break ground March 1st. I don't see that happening because the development of the City Hall and infrastructure budget has been a little bit delayed with all the City Hall design components. So, but I think by sometime in April or May 1st, they should start breaking ground and building the City Hall building and all the site work for the development. The exciting part is too, you'll see if you stick around later tonight in the agenda, we finalized an agreement with the VRE as well. So that project is good to go in terms of building the garage as well. So all those construction projects are going to be happening over the next few years. Once they finish the City Hall, we move out of this building, move across the street to that City Hall, and then they demolish this building and continue the rest of the development projects. But it all kind of kicks off from a financing standpoint with this mechanism through the EDA. Anything to add, Dean, to that? Or?
No,
Okay. Any questions on that?
unless they have questions about, the various properties and what's going on in the business.
Yeah.
Most of them will get into that later, right?
Yeah, we'll do. I plan on doing a pretty good overview as well in January, just to kind of give you more of a background of everything related to the development, all the different components, all the infrastructure components as well, and then just answering your questions on any of those slides.
So why leverage the EDA to do this rather than the city floating a bond direct?
Because we can't do it.
There you go. That's the question. Okay.
Well, I guess we could do it.
Well, we can do a GO bond. Yeah.
But then we run into our cap, so we have we can only borrow 10% of the total value of all the real property in the city. We're below that right now, but when we go into a recession and the property values drop, we can easily go above that 10%. And we did that back in 2008 or 9. We actually either dipped or we got close to doing so.
Yeah.
So this way, it's considered a revenue bond. It doesn't count against the city's general obligation debt. The city, as far as the city itself, just being the governmental entity, has no obligation. Now, obviously, as a lessee, we will, but the borrower is the developer. The developer is on the hook to pay it back, not the city. So it's kind of a shell game in a certain sense, because we are going to hopefully pay it back, but it's based upon state law and what we can and cannot do.
So you said the city can't do that, but the EDA.
EDA is set up because the Virginia Constitution prohibits cities from doing any kind of making loans for any kind of speculative development.
Oh,
Okay, but obviously we need to have that ability, especially since government bonds are generally cheaper. So there's the General Assembly found a way around that, which was to create this separate. You guys are not part of the city per se. You are a political subdivision of the Commonwealth.
Okay.
You're appointed by the city, and for all intents and purposes, you should work with the city, and I think the governing body is going to expect that. But technically, you're an independent agency or a political subdivision of the Commonwealth. Okay, so all the rules that apply to the other public body apply to you. And really, the only control the governing body has over you is appointing you, and then there is some stuff that they can do, but generally speaking, it's just appointing you.
Okay.
And I can give you land if they want to develop land. You can enter into an agreement with the governing body on how that's going to happen. So just think of it like that.
Okay.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah, thanks for that explanation.
Yeah,
Were
that's
there
helpful.
any
That's
prior
helpful.
things that the EDA has done in the past that you can see here at the city?
Yeah, really the EDA and the so the EDA, before when it was called the IDA, actually developed Connors Center. So the city did give it all that land up there, and it went about developing. And when I say develop, they built the pad sites essentially, and then they sold it for just pennies on the dollar. But the stipulation was that whoever bought it had to build, I think it was in 2 years, or it would revert back to the city. So a lot of these businesses up there, you'll find they have a vested interest in the city because they feel like they made a gamble back when the city was nothing. It was just a little place out in the middle of nowhere. And they really have a strong sense of identity with the city. They get a little bit annoyed with us every once in a while when we start talking about major development up there. They think that we're just trying to push them out. So we have to be real sensitive about that, because they are a substantial part of the city's revenue and also identity. So you gotta be careful. But so the IDA did that. The name was changed to EDA. It was set up to help with development of the downtown. Recession hit, it kind of slowed everything down. But one of the things that we did during the recession was, again, it was a shell game, but basically the city the schools sold or borrowed money. They sold their schools to the EDA, I think, and I think that's how it worked. And then the schools then borrowed money from the EDA, and then the city paid it all back. It was a real weird deal, but it basically it allowed the city to get a bridge loan essentially, because we needed revenue. So the city had that money to kind of get it over the hump. And it was kind of fishy, but it was all legitimate. It was all above board, but it's because of the way Virginia law is. I don't recommend we do anything like that, but we did basically with the school buildings, what you're going to do here, although this is a much different purpose. It's you've got an asset the city was leasing, and I think that's what it was. We were leasing it from whomever on behalf of the schools or something like that. But so it is a nice tool to have. Now, you can also have a private developer who wants to just come and borrow from you too. I mean, you're not restricted just to even Manassas Park. So EDAs can and do loan money for projects outside of their jurisdiction. And had we not been able to kind of stand you guys up, we were probably going to approach Lincoln County and see if they could do it.
Interesting.
But at this point, we only have $2,800, so.
Hey, we have 20 in
Any other questions about this? Okay. So again, that's the first step. So I know we're going to be talking about regular meeting schedules in the next slide, but I would request and recommend that we do slot some meetings in each month, January, February, and March as a placeholder. So I would get those scheduled. One of them may fall in what we decide to be a regular scheduled meeting. The other ones, if they don't, they would be called special meetings per your bylaws that we would have to advertise as separate meetings. But if we can get it on the calendar tonight, that would be my preference, and I can share that with our financial advisors and get them out here on one of those days.
And just to kind of clarify what the purpose of that is, so under the FOIA, as you guys may remember, you need to give 3 days notice of every meeting. Well, if you decide you're going to meet on a particular day for the next however many months, that serves as your 3-day notice. So if we do like a 3 or 4 month schedule, just keep in the back of your mind, after that, you're going to have to give, it's going to have to be noticed. Lan is the one that does that, but you got to let her know when the meeting is going to occur so she can do that.
Can we do advanced planning, like say on a quarterly basis?
Yeah, I would recommend
Everybody does
that.
it annually. So I mean, and that's what a lot of local governments will do, is they'll say, like the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission has a given day every month that they meet. And then they establish that at the beginning of the year. They don't ever have to advertise it again. And if we don't meet that day, then we put something up on the website that says we're not meeting.
But to your point, also, like if we know we have some issues and let's say we only meet once per quarter or once every 2 months, so we know we have to meet another time in advance, then yeah, you could let us know, hey, we also want to meet on this date, and then please go ahead and advertise for that date. So we can kind of plan that. But to Dean's point also, like the governing body, we kind of know the different items that will come up. So beyond just the first and third Tuesdays of the month, we know which months we have to schedule even more meetings, usually during budget time, to lock in, or during holidays, we kind of shift things around. So we look at it annually, but then again, as items come up, sometimes we do have to schedule in advance some additional meetings.
Okay.
So before we lock in those January, February, and March dates, I do want us to kind of think about what do you all want to be your regular meeting schedule, and then we can kind of work around that as well for the additional kind of special meetings related to the downtown development bond. So right now, per the bylaws, it's meeting every 2 months. My recommendation is once a quarter until we feel we need to meet more. But that, again, that's up to your all's discretion. To do so, of course, we'd have to amend the bylaws to make that happen. But again, this is your board now, so you guys kind of get to plan the future of the organization. Recommending Wednesday probably as the best option after conferring with both the city attorney and city clerk today. That's probably going to work best for them as well, and I do want them to, of course, the clerk now has to be here as well. So Wednesday evenings are the best. The Planning Commission, I believe they've reserved the second and fourth Wednesday of the month now per their new schedule. Do you remember, Lana, is that correct? It's the second and fourth? Yeah.
They're on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, but it's the second and fourth Wednesday, right?
It just changed it.
It just did, and I'm pretty certain it was the second is their every month they'll meet on the second Wednesday because they want to meet after the governing body.
I think you're right.
Yeah, so it would be the first or third Wednesdays of the month, Wednesday nights, so that it wouldn't conflict with the Planning Commission. And you can do it monthly. You can do it twice a month if you want, once every 2 months, like currently established in your bylaws, once a quarter, however often you feel you want to establish your regular meeting. So I think that's really the first item that you all need to act on for relating to meeting scheduling. And then I request that we go ahead and act on establishing special meetings outside of that for the purpose of the downtown.
And those were, you said, are for the first between January and March, right? Those special meetings.
Yeah, unless like it could be that you start off your regular meetings, every 2 months, and I guess this could be consider your first, and then February would be the next, or however you want to schedule that during the year that you want to meet January, March, April, however you establish that meeting rhythm. Then outside of that, like let's say you're only meeting in February per this meeting rhythm, then we'd want to establish a special meeting for January and one for March to lock those dates in place.
Got it. Okay.
Should we establish that now?
Yes, I would recommend establishing the regular meeting schedule, what you all prefer to meet, how frequent and what months, right? Or what month to start, I guess, those frequent, like if it's quarterly or bi-monthly or monthly,
Right.
And getting that schedule set, taking action on that, and then we can talk about the special meeting dates as well.
Okay. So, what do we think about maybe starting this is just open discussion. Just as a suggestion, maybe we could have our first meeting the first week of February, perhaps, and then we can schedule have a regular meeting schedule maybe the first week, like starting the first week of February, and then from there on after have go every other month, right? So February, because we have a couple of big presentations and meetings that we have to account for early in the year. Then so say February, then April, then June, and maybe we go through the up to June, or maybe through the summer first week of.
Well, what's the staging for this development? Because that would affect our pace
Right.
and when we want to do things. You mentioned some other meetings, information kind of meetings. Would those be our meetings, or would they be?
It would be the special meeting.
Well, yeah, there's still your meetings. It's just they're not regular. They're not part of your regular calendar, right? So there'll just be extra meetings that the chair can call for extra meetings. So you can do it during the meeting, or even if it's outside the meeting hours and Mark says, hey, guess what? We need to meet on this date. He'll send an email out saying, hey, calling a meeting on this date. So that can happen as well. So those are the special meetings. So what I've recommended is outside your regular scheduled meetings, we figure out which months between January through March we need to have those special meetings as well as a placeholder.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when do you think you're ready to present to us what these plans are and what the role of the EDA would be in these plans?
Yeah. So I would start in January. I would at least do a presentation there, and maybe even our financial advisors may come out that night. And then if not, I would still do the presentation, but then in February would be when the financial advisors come out. Then probably March is when you all would be voting on the resolution, if the timeline
the
works.
first special meeting would be January.
January.
Well, depending, unless if you stick with Mark's schedule, yes. The first special meeting would be in January. The second special meeting would be in March.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the regular meeting would still be in February.
Yeah, February and then
Maybe
April.
January, February, March, like that.
Yeah, so you'd be meeting January, February, March, and April. So you'd have 4 straight months of meetings to make sure we have, I think, enough meetings to knock out whatever we need to do with kind of step 1 of the downtown.
Right.
And then after that, we can reevaluate what we need to do.
Right.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Okay. So then we'll set our regular meeting every other month, say starting tonight, right? Do we like first week of the month, since it doesn't seem to conflict with some of the other city meetings?
First and third is what was available, right? Okay.
And let me double check. I'm going to make a quick phone call here. Let me make sure the plan, because they just changed theirs. I want to be.
For February, that
That'll
would
be
be
the 3rd.
the 3rd or the 17th.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the first
Yeah.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
That keeps it simple, really.
Right,
I don't have
right.
to count.
For-
Third Wednesday.
That's my thinking too.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
My schedule's flexible.
Yeah. First. All right. So let's think first Wednesday of every other month then.
Yeah.
For a regular meeting then.
Yeah, first Wednesdays would work.
And the
Okay.
time, 5 p.m. is kind of pushing it.
What's that?
People who work outside the city. Of course, with COVID right now, I'm teleworking. I thought I was sort of surprised at a 5 p.m. meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we normally do 7 p.m., but that's when everyone was available for this first meeting.
Okay.
So we went ahead and scheduled that. But normal meetings usually start at 7 p.m.
Yeah, that is definitely better.
Okay.
Is 7 o'clock better for everyone?
Yeah.
7 better for you
Fine.
as well, Laura?
And who knows what we're gonna be
You never
doing
know
in
what
that
that
time frame.
work day might
Yeah,
come
oh, yeah.
along.
Right. Okay.
That's easier for staff as well because it gives us time after the normal workday to prepare for the meeting. Like usually before the governing body, I'm still working
Yeah.
in the hours leading up to the governing body getting ready. Tonight's an exception.
Okay.
Okay, so then special meetings. So you decided on the regular meetings
Yes.
schedule. Okay. Do they need to vote on that, Dean? Or
I'm sorry, what's
do they need to vote on their regular meeting schedule that it's going to start?
Yeah, they've
Okay.
agreed to it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
That'll save you the hassle of having to do it
yeah,
in the
yeah.
future.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt an alternate month schedule starting tonight and continuing on the first Wednesday of every other month at 7 p.m. So what that would look like, as an example, would be December, February, April, June, etc. And I'd also like to make a motion or amend the motion to make it an annual schedule. Okay.
And we can only do this up through June because we get reappointed in June or something? You mentioned.
Yeah.
Through June. Okay, so up to June then.
Good.
So 6 months then.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor?
All right,
Okay. The motion is carried.
it's in my iPhone.
And now for the special meetings, those don't have to be the first Wednesday. We can kind of work around that. I know for January, the first Wednesday may be difficult with holidays and everything else. So you may
Indeed.
want to look at just different, and plus to give more time for us to kind of get all the bond information ready, I'd probably recommend towards the latter part of January, maybe the fourth Wednesday, if that works for you all. Or actually, that's cutting it pretty close to that February one, but
Yeah.
Right.
maybe the
Mid-January too aggressive?
I think mid-January would work.
Yeah.
So the third January, I think,
Wednesday?
of the month, which would be the
Well, third
20th.
Wednesday conflicts with the planning commission?
No, the second Wednesday would be planning commission.
Also,
So
the third Wednesday of January.
third Wednesday would be January 20th.
Okay.
So that would be special meeting number 1.
Okay.
And then in March, I'd probably recommend that early part of the month, maybe the first Wednesday of that month.
First Wednesday
Yeah.
of March. Does that work for everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Should we make a motion on the special meetings as
I
well?
would, yeah.
Okay. All right. I'd like to make a motion that we schedule 2 special meetings, one for January 20th and one for March 1st, to accommodate additional discussion topics.
It would be March 3rd.
Sorry, March 3rd. Thank you for that. At 7 p.m. To accommodate the city development topics that we'll discuss.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
Okay. The motion is carried.
Okay. Thank you very much. So moving on to the next topic, just kind of priority areas of focus. So we know the downtown development bonds are kind of the first step, and the whole issuance of industrial bonds are kind of a main feature of EDAs and your authorities, and that's what a lot of jurisdictions use them for. So we know that's certainly a priority area of focus for your group. A second focus is also listed in the bylaws. To some of Dean's earlier points, is kind of more of a property acquisition and management function and I just pulled language out from the bylaws to acquire, own, lease, and dispose of properties to the end that it may be able to promote industry and develop trade by inducing commercial enterprises to locate in or remain really in the city. So that's already a function laid out in the second component. To Len's point, we don't have a lot of money to do that, but it may be something, an opportunity in the future that may not be present right now, but it may become an opportunity as well. Some other things that I was looking at as well, and of course these These other items are really, held and maintained by the governing body, but certainly we have a lot of advisory groups in the city. So looking at strategies, getting involved in that. I know that was an important part of all your interviews as well, kind of what the governing body would like us to kind of tackle. And some of these would be kind of that whole marketing strategy reviewing. So I'm going to be bringing a contractor forward to help us do a branding effort, a marketing strategy for the downtown and for the city. So them engaging with you all on that as well. That might also start in January, February timeframe as well. So that might be another agenda item for you all to look at, and just anything else that you would want to evaluate when it comes to that. What we can be doing better as a staff on those, any suggestions, and then the small business development program. We don't have, if I ever am funded an economic development coordinator position, that's probably the priority emphasis that I place on them. I'm doing more of the negotiations with larger businesses and developers, but really a robust small business development program of identifying those who are interested in starting up their businesses, kind of doing the training like what the Flory Center used to do with financing, business plans, things like that, helping local interested parties establishing small businesses and maybe having them establish themselves across the street or other parts of the city as well. Those could be of interesting areas that you may all want to tackle, and then anything else that you all would want to, I guess, evaluate from what we're doing as a staff from a advisory kind of function.
So those other items there, are those something that we can come up with over the course of the next year?
Yeah, you don't have to decide on any of these things, but they're absolutely right. It would be us kind of presenting what we're doing, and then you guys would be providing your input. You can even volunteer to kind of help us out if your time permits. So right now, our marketing lead and partnering with my assistant for operations, they're starting to develop kind of a small business kind of marketing program as well. So we'll probably bring that forward to you all and kind of what our plans are, and just kind of soliciting your all's input and kind of almost like a citizen input as well to what we're doing, and seeing where you all may want to support us or any recommendations you may have for us as well. Yeah. So we don't have to decide that tonight, just kind of initial ideas that we brought up, and then feel free to think about anything else you would want to do. But I wanted to kind of get this on your plate here to evaluate. And then beyond this, of course, again, just take a look at those bylaws and just start thinking about, do you like it? Is it perfect the way it's established? Is there anything else you'd like to amend in future meetings? So that is all I had for you all tonight. Turn it over to you all to see if you have any other questions or any other discussion points that you would like to raise this evening.
I need to work with the new treasurer to
Yes,
get their name on the account, get my name off.
absolutely. We'll do that. And she might still be here, so we may, after this, you and I may just walk over there.
She was when I came in.
Yeah, I think she's sticking around. Yeah.
Len, will you be staying on?
We'll see. I just want to get this done.
Right. Right.
This is a relief.
Yeah. Well, I asked because I think this body would benefit from your experience, in historically. So just
Thank you.
just asking, of course.
Okay.
Lynn, when you meet with Pond, if you could just let her know the deadline for getting that letter to the public accounts.
I don't even know. The last one I think I did was 2018. I think that's when my commission expired. I pulled them all together last night.
Well, we can deal with that separately then. I thought
2017. 2017. It's been 3 years.
You haven't gotten in trouble with those.
No.
Dean, do we need to do like an independent audit as well, or do we just send our records to?
Below a certain amount, I think it's $5,000, I believe it is.
Okay.
You just have to go ahead and let them know that it's there.
Okay, so it's to the state you're talking about. Okay. All right.
Once you start getting a lot of money in there, then yeah, you need to get it audited, but for our purposes, it's one.
Okay.
Yeah, this was dated 22nd day of January 2017.
Okay, so.
I think there's an amount attached to that letter also. As far as how much money we have.
No, there was something that we got from the people who loaned us that money. I can't remember who it was. They had an affidavit that they sent us. It's been a while.
I won't go grab Connor's the lake off that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was an affidavit from Kurt Mason, Senior Vice President of Regions Bank.
Yeah, he was the trustee of
That's fun.
the funds, yeah.
And he just sent an affidavit. Yeah, everything's good. Affidavit of Regions Bank. Regions Bank served as trustee, $3,245,000.
So you took that and now it's attached to the letter you sent to the
Yes.
state, right?
I had to get that from him before, and attached it to the letter, and off it went. Yeah, and the authority did not exceed a sum of $25,000. So that's what's in the letter here.
And Mark, before I forget, before we adjourn, maybe if you all want to decide, do you prefer to do these remote, in person, or a mix?
That's a good question.
I think mix. I
Yeah,
like to have the option, depending upon what's going on.
same mix, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll establish a go-to meeting link for each of these, and then probably everyone just should let the chair know if you're planning on attending in person or remote, and then you can let us know as well. That's usually how the mayor manages it.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, does it have to be the same? It doesn't have to be the same each meeting, right? It just-
You can. Yep.
Okay.
So I had it backwards. There you
So in terms of the our next actions for our next meeting, in mid-January, I think we said January 20th. For that date, in terms of an agenda,
Yeah.
what should we plan for?
Yeah. So you and I should probably meet a week or so prior to that,
Okay.
and then we can discuss kind of what can go on agenda, and we can actually publish an agenda to send out to everybody else. But likely the agenda items would be the downtown development overview. That'd be my presentation. Potentially the Davenport presentation on the financing mechanisms. If not then, likely in February, but it may be in that January meeting. And that's probably, and then maybe a bylaws review if you all want to do that. And that's probably what I'd want to keep that focused on, and we'll save some of the marketing stuff until after we get done with the downtown focus area. So I think that's going to be kind of the focus of the next few meetings. It's just that downtown development and the financing mechanism and getting that locked in. When we're done with that, then I'll probably bring in my marketing manager and operations manager, and we can start talking about some of the other things that we're doing.
Okay.
Do
Thank you,
we
that's
need to
helpful.
vote to be able to do virtual versus?
Not at this point, no,
Okay.
that's just given, it's allowed to do that.
Okay.
I just wanted to let you know, so they've increased the amount from $5,000 cap to $25,000. So you guys probably aren't gonna have to do an audit for some time. And it is an annual requirement that we notify them. We're supposed to do an audit annually. We're exempt. We probably ought to be notifying them, but it's not, obviously not a huge deal because we're not getting audited.
I think it was like June the letter was supposed to go, and I think this January was very late. But I can't recall all the details.
It says here, it says annually.
Annually.
So we probably did it in June because it was a fiscal year for the city. At the end of June, and we do with the city, we at the end of June, we have to do the audit, like what, fall timeframe?
Yeah, we usually start
November.
the audit in the summer, but it was due November 30th. They pushed it back. Now it's December 15th of each year.
Okay.
Yeah, these dates are November,
Probably,
September, August. So,
you know, we probably ought to
We're all
do it
over
as
the
quickly
place.
as we can after the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion? Laszlo?
Nothing else?
No? Lena?
Adjourn.
Okay. Dean?
I have nothing other than I want to apologize for using the term shell game. It's not. You know, it's an easy way to understand that the city was fully responsible for everything, but it was a way to avoid the requirements of capping the city's purchasing or borrowing authority. So it was a creative way to do it, and I said that just kind of tongue in cheek, but I didn't realize we were televised. I don't want to giving them the wrong idea. But
Indeed. Indeed.
You're talking for the schools transaction?
Yeah, the school's transaction. It was all completely above board, and our financial advisors and Wirewood handled everything, so it was.
And the schools, it was a great job. Schools are great.
Yeah. Well, and we then refunded that or refinanced it shortly thereafter, so you'll notice that's no longer on the books.
Yeah.
That debt is no longer outstanding with EDA. So it was just a very quick bridge loan. We have other ways of the city to do bridge loans as well, but that was one way.
Okay.
So that clarification, I don't have anything else.
Thank you, Dean. Appreciate that. Everything's above board. All right. Len, anything?
Yep, I'm good.
Michael?
I'm good, thank you.
Madam Odell?
I'm good.
All right, very good. I make a motion that we adjourn this first very successful meeting of the EDA.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Motion is carried. We are dismissed.
All right.